We're continuing our study of the Latin verb, the active indicative forms. Here we're going into the fourth conjugation. We will do the fourth before the third I-O. I'm going to go ahead and write out a word here, audio, audire, audivi, auditus, or auditum, whichever you've been accustomed to. This is a standard fourth conjugation verb that's often used in these examples. You'll notice here that there's a bigger distinction between the first and the third principal parts. We also, in Honors Latin 3, that is, if you're in a different course, that's perfectly fine if you're using this by way of review. But recently, we had an assignment here, of course, with venio in our homework, so I'm using that one. Venio, venire, veni, ventus. There also is an interesting reason that venio is nice for this purpose. And you'll see this later when I compare venio and veni when we come around to it. So venio, venire, veni, ventus. We get our stem, veni. We know that it is fourth conjugation by comparing the first and second principal parts. We have a long I in both. A long I in both means fourth. We remove the RE and we get veni for the stem. Now, we know here that we add oist, mustus, for our endings. Now, we also know that the third conjugation and the fourth have this pattern of the stem vowel pattern here in the present. It changes to get into the present. There's actually some debate among scholars here on exactly what is happening and how it works. Some would make it look like this. Sort of that pattern coming in. Right there. And then endings, which this ending would just be nothing because it already has the O. And then t, and then mus, and then tis, and then nt, that kind of thing right there. Now, here, what this kind of person would say is that actually the two I's, the I of the stem vowel, and then this is normally called the thematic vowel or the theme vowel, the vowel that connects stem to ending. They would say really that these simply join together and lengthened. That'd be what they would say. Now, the reason why some people think this is the case is because here we end up with the stem vowel and a vowel associated with the ending. Here we end up with a stem vowel and the U, which is associated with the ending, then the NT afterwards. So there is something nice in kind of looking at it that way. Others will simply say, no, think of it this way. We got all our venis out here, all right? Think of it this way. Veni, and then what basically happens is that you get the endings o, is, t, and then mus, tis, nt. And you see this is actually ready to attach venio, venis, venit, venimus, venitus, and then here's our one issue right here. We do have to have a U here. So in this sense, the person is saying, forget about the theme vowel, the stem plus the ending is all that you have, and you have to remember the exception here that the U is in place. This is kind of what I would prefer and what I would encourage you to focus on. And it does end up with an O, vowel pattern. So what is curious now, as I write out the whole thing cleanly, what is curious about this fourth conjugation is that we do end up with an I-O form together in the first singular. Then everything is regular after that, but once again, we end up with an I-U pattern together in the third plural. Venio and then veniunt. Other than that, it's quite normal, okay? It's rather like what you would see, say, with the second conjugation, a nice long vowel right there holding out in that way. So there are a couple ways to think about how the word actually forms with the different parts, but actually it's clear enough when you look at it. It has an I stem from taking off the RE up here. It naturally has a long I in the stem, and so that I persists here in the first singular and here in the third plural. So that is our present form. Now, you'll remember that third conjugation had a difference. Let me go ahead and actually come on to a different page. A different tense form added, this a and the ba going on there in the imperfect. Later, in the future, it also had a change in the tense form where it just had this long e but then not the bi tense form. That did not actually come in because the change going into the present and the long E were enough to show the future. So now we just have to write this and fill it in. Veni, veni, veni. All right. As always, our imperfect is nice and clean. All right. Veni, eba, eba, s, eba, t, eba, mus, eba, tis, eba, nt. Perfectly normal. So veni ebat, for example, they were coming. Veni ebam, I was coming, that kind of thing. Wonderful forms there, very clean. Now here we're just going to get veni, Now watch that one. I'm going to come back to it because there's an exception, but I want you to see the whole thing unpacked. Veni, s, veni, ate. Now again, I'm putting that there so you see it's kind of this tense form coming in. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the macron off because the macron's not always there anyways. Venie mus. Venie tis. Venient, right, like that. Veni, there's the I from the stem, there's the E from the tense form, there's the nt from the ending there. Okay, now we come here. Remember what happened in the third conjugation as well? Here, the same thing will take place. We had regame become regem. Due to the place of pronunciation with the M, it sort of forces the E to become an A. So this is going to be veniam in this particular case. I'll write it out cleanly here. It is a modification made to the speech sound, the place of pronunciation. And so it becomes veniam. A little bit of a shift, a little something to remember. Other than that, it's very, very regular. Now, let's remember our principal parts here. Veni, veni. So we take off the I. Our perfect stem, as we now come to make the perfect system, the perfect stem is ven. Ven, ven, ven. So these, of course, can be different. You'll remember like audio, audiri, audivi, right? That would remove the I and it would be audiv. This instead is ven, no problem. For the perfect, we simply add on e, isti, it, immus, istis, and erunt. Now I want to show you something as we pause here. Notice that because of the oddity of the principal parts, venio, venire, veni, ven is the perfect stem, veni is the present stem. We added only a T. This is where the break is in the present. This is the stem, veni, this is the ending, T. Curiously, because ven is the stem in the perfect, here is the stem. It is the special perfect personal ending. For that strange reason, venit and venit look exactly the same. So you will know whether it is perfect or whether it is present by context with a word like venio. There are a few of them. Venio is probably the most common in this way, but you'll know it by context. When you see it in a sentence and what the other verbs are around it, it actually turns out to be not that difficult. Speaking of things that are not that difficult, watch what happens now with the future perfect and pluperfect. We have ven, all the way down, of course, that we have to make everything off of the perfect tense stem when we're in the perfect system. So ven, and then we simply have era. Era, you will recall, was the tense form for the pluperfects. Era. Now we need to add our endings. St, mus, tis, nt. There was no change there at all. Perfectly normal. Ven plus the tense form era plus the personal endings. Come to the future, and it's basically the same thing with the one change, of course, that at this point we are starting to anticipate. The ere is er-o here in the first because the O swallows the I. Other than that, we're going to get ere, then the ending. Ere, then the ending. Ere, then the ending. So, whoops, almost forgot that I. Eretis, and then ere, then the ending, venerent. Okay, notice here, venerunt, that has the ending right there. There's the stem plus the ending, ven plus erunt. Here, venerint, it's the stem plus the tense form plus the ending. Very close in spelling, but actually here we have 3 parts together, here we have 2 parts together. And that is the fourth conjugation. Now, the third I-O is basically the same thing. Let's take a word here that is third I-O. Third I-O is in its own way a third conjugation, but we normally learn it with the fourth because of how similar they are. Capio, capere, capi, captus, okay? Or captum, whichever you've had there. Notice you have in the 2 principal parts here at the beginning an I stem and then a short E ending. When you compare the 2, that is the signal for third I-O. It's kind of like you look here and that's similar to third, but you see an I stem in the first. The only thing that happens then is it does, like the fourth conjugation, retain that I here in the present. Capio, and now it looks just like the fourth. Capis, capit, capimus, capitis, capiunt. Do you see the same thing happening there? I and U, I and O. Just like in the fourth conjugation. Capio, capis, capit, capimus, capitis, capiunt. That is the normal change into the present. Now, it is able to maintain this here in that way is the stem. It is called I stem because it does have an I in the stem. That means that when we do come to the imperfect, we're going to get copy. And do you remember how a tense form like this, aba, it kind of nice seals it in that way. So just like we saw back here with veniebam, veniebas, veniebat, we're going to get copiebam, copiebas, copiebat, and so on over into the plural now. Copiebamus, copiebatis, copiebant. That is how we're going to make the imperfect. And this is like grab or capture, that kind of thing, take. So they were capturing, I was capturing, they are capturing, that kind of thing. Now the future, same thing as we've seen with third and fourth. We're going to end up with copy for the stem. The M is the alternate ending, which ends up forcing that E to become the A. So that's a unique one in the first. After that, we're into all the regulars. Copie, there's that tense form like that, going right into the ending. That is not like the first and second conjugation. That is like the third and fourth conjugation. Here we also have that I stem in each case right there, which is like the fourth, which also has an I stem. Copiemus, copietis, copient, and there is your future. Now, everything is exactly the same when it comes to the perfect system. So for example, cape, let's take cape and let's make our, let's say our third singular. Isti, there's it. There's an example of the perfect and we made the third singular. Let's take the pluperfect for example. Cape, we know that we're going to have era, and then we know we're going to have the regular ending T. Caperat, that's the pluperfect. Future perfect, we'll still do the third singular. Cape, we know we're going to have ere, and we know we're going to have T, caperet. And so in that way, it is perfectly regular. And now you can see the third I-O and the fourth, which are kissing cousins. They are very similar to one another. Take care.